We begin this Wednesday evening with the Israeli army video of what is purportedly an airstrike that eliminated dozens of terrorists from Hezbollah and hit over 100 of the organization's targets in Lebanon. There were strikes reported in Lebanon's eastern Baalbek, targeting the Al-Asira area, along with the town of Lat and its surroundings. Israeli attack and surveillance drones were reportedly flying over the area shortly before the strikes. There were Israeli airstrikes reported in western Bekaa, Wadi al-Asafir in the city of Qiyam, and the suburbs of Tyre and al-Malikiya, and in the Jezin region. In another development, the United States has rejected any Israeli efforts to starve people in Jabalia or anywhere else in the Gaza Strip. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, says Israel's words must be matched with actions on the ground, one of which is taking steps within 30 days to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza or face potential restrictions on U.S. military aid.
I sat in the Security Council week after week, stood before the General Assembly week after week, hoping to be able to tell my people that help is on the way. They endured horrors that you watch on your TV screens and yet can barely comprehend, but their tormentors continue to be shielded and Palestinian victims continue to be abandoned.
This Council, the international community, and the entire UN must accept the reality that UNRWA Gaza is beyond redemption, beyond saving, beyond reform. We must turn a new page now.
Thank you, Coordinator Winsland, for your sobering briefing. I don't know how many people in this room have watched a child die of starvation. I have. It was nearly 3 decades ago, but it's the kind of memory that one doesn't forget. Her rib bones poking out from under her skin, bloated belly, gaunt eyes, and I remember her mother's eyes filled with despair. And I think about her as we have seen reports that no food assistance has reached Jabalia or Beit Lahia since early October. About the ribs and the bellies, the eyes of children in northern Gaza, and about their parents. At the same time, the United States has made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that 1 year into this conflict, Israel must address the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that the United States rejects any Israeli efforts to starve Palestinians in Jabalia or anywhere else, and that Israel's words must be matched by action on the ground.
The U.S. has also commented on Israel's decision to ban the UN relief agency UNRWA from operating in Israel, saying it could have consequences under U.S. law. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says not enough is being done to bring in aid into Gaza, drawing the attention of the UN World Food Programme to the potential famine in Gaza. Israel's decision on UNRWA has raised concerns about its ability to provide relief in Gaza after over a year of war.
That we are deeply troubled by this legislation. It could shutter UNRWA operations in the West Bank, in Gaza, in East Jerusalem. It poses risks for millions of Palestinians who rely on UNRWA for essential services, including healthcare and primary and secondary education. UNRWA, of course, plays a critical role in providing services to Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, and throughout the wider region, and particularly in Gaza. They play a role right now that at least today cannot be filled by anyone else. They are a key partner in delivering food, water, and other humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza that wouldn't have anyone else to get it from if UNRWA were to go away. So we have made clear our concerns over this bill. We have made clear our opposition to this bill. As the Secretary said in his letter, and as I reiterated yesterday, there could be consequences under U.S. law and U.S. policy for the implementation of this legislation. We are going to engage with the government of Israel in the days ahead about how they plan to implement it. We're going to watch and see if there are legal challenges to the law and if there's any impact by those legal challenges. And then we'll make our decisions after looking at all of those factors. They certainly have a legal obligation to allow humanitarian assistance in and not to erect roadblocks to humanitarian assistance to people in Gaza. And we've made that clear since the outset of this conflict. And a great number of our engagements with the government of Israel have been around ensuring that they do let humanitarian assistance in and that they do ensure that humanitarian assistance gets to the people that need it. And that is precisely one of our major concerns about this legislation. I should be clear, by the way, it's not our only concern about this legislation. We also support the work that UNRWA does outside of Gaza. We support the work they do in the West Bank. We support the work that they do in the broader region to deliver humanitarian services to Palestinians. But the work is absolutely critical and irreplaceable in Gaza right now.
Well, other UN agencies have responded to Israel's latest ban on UNRWA, many of them saying that banning the UN relief agency could result in the deaths of more children and represent a form of collective punishment for Gazans if fully implemented. They also describe UNRWA's work as indispensable. Palestinian health authorities' data show that over 13,000 children, whose identities have been confirmed, have been killed in the Gaza war. Many more are believed to have died from disease due to a collapsing medical system and food and water shortages.
If UNRWA is unable to operate, it'd likely see the collapse of the humanitarian system in Gaza. UNICEF would become effectively unable to distribute life-saving supplies. Here I'm talking vaccines, I'm talking winter clothes, I'm talking hygiene kits, health kits, water and sanitation, RUTF on malnutrition, and we know, again, we're knocking on the door of famine, and all range of nutrition supplies. So a decision such as this suddenly means that a new way has been found to kill children. You take away the healthcare workers, you take away the nutritional support, you take away the people who will provide the life-saving supplies for a population that is physically absolutely on death's door, and psychologically, of course, in uncharted territory. You take away these healthcare workers, you take away the nutritionists, then we will see many more children die.
In the meantime, UNRWA's operations in Lebanon will remain fully operational. That's according to its Director of Affairs in Lebanon, Dorothy Claus. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA for short, was established in 1949 by a UN General Assembly resolution following the war surrounding the founding of Israel, when 700,000 Palestinians fled or were driven from their homes in the area.
UNRWA in Lebanon remains fully operational with her regular program as well as the response to the current humanitarian crisis. We are running our health centers. We do our usual referrals to hospitals. We are in preparation of opening the scholastic year in about 2 weeks' time, which will be very challenging as we will have to accommodate all the children that have been displaced from the south and the southern suburbs, including some of our teachers. We have several schools which are now no longer available for the school children because we're hosting displaced persons in the schools. Nevertheless, our aim is to ensure that every single child that usually comes to our schools and was supposed to be enrolled has some form of contact with our education system and receives some form of education in the coming weeks and months.